Hey guys, Rosalie here. We're going to be talking about 3 different ways that I've composted in different houses I've lived in, plus a bonus one that might work for you if the other ways don't. First things first, why compost? 30% of the US's trash could be composted. We're talking yard waste and food scraps. Won't compostables break down in the landfill, you ask? No, they will not, because they're covered with toxic waste, so instead they just rot and emit methane when in a landfill. Yard waste, food scraps, paper, it's all supposed to be broken down back into the earth and be beneficial to soil. So 3 ways I've composted is 1, a tumbler, those giant plastic things that you've seen. 2 is vermicomposting, that has to do with worms. And the 3rd is an electric at-home composter. It's basically a new invention and I'm gonna show you mine. This is our vermicomposting system. Not every sustainable swap is aesthetic, but there's a reason why there's starting to be laws about composting, and that might be why you're here. Yes, there are vermicomposting systems you can buy online, but this is what my husband used with recycled materials. We've got some see-through cloth so that the worms can breathe through there. And this is a recycled box with the lid, but you have to let air go through. This is just to put weight on the lid so it doesn't fly off, of course. And let's look inside of here. Woo! There's actually 0 smell right now, and you can see things have broken down. We've even put paper in there and a little bit of cardboard. You don't want to only add a bunch of paper, but we want to add food, acidic foods. There's one thing that you cannot add. Do not add papaya seeds because they will make worms infertile. Now, our worms multiply so fast. Whenever we add our food scraps, I put these gloves on and kind of rotate the soil around so that it's not all on top and all the worms can get to it easier. I'm gonna add some of these really rotten limes and let's find some wormies. We'll add some water so they don't get too dried out, but look at these guys. Yay! I don't know why, but I get attached to them. They're literally like my husband and I's first children. I don't know. They're just so happy and they eat all of our food scraps. Look at them. Some reasons why I believe vermicomposting is the best way to compost is 1, because you can use these worms in your garden. You can grab them and put them in your garden. Earthworms are so good for plants. 2, the worms break down the food and scraps so quickly. And 3, this is our garden secret, is worm juice. So we have a little hole at the bottom of here. I just added some water into the soil. Sometimes it rains, sometimes we add water, and out comes worm juice, and we think it's a great nutritious liquid to add to your plants and garden. Okay, I just got to my old house. Look how cute my roommate has set up a garden box and everything. So this is my old compost tumbler, what I would do before, and as you can see, maybe there's little flies flying around it. It's not supposed to smell, and I don't smell anything, but it can smell inside, and basically you just put food in here. I'm kind of scared to see what's in here. It doesn't look that bad, but I think there's flies because it hasn't been spun in a while, and normally every time you'd add, you would just do a few rotations. But the thing is, I don't know why this is the most common way of composting, because it usually takes about a year for things to actually break down, and no one really has time for that. It does slowly get smaller, so you can keep putting more and more in here. But I mean, for like a whole family, you would need a couple of these or else it would overflow. This is how most people in Hawaii recycle, because you get a lot of money back for the bottles and cans. You'll see these at so many houses here. And then paper recycling. Of course, you wouldn't really want to have something like this unless you have a yard, an outdoor space. You don't want it right next to your door. And I was just talking to someone that had one of these on her property, and for a year she was doing everything right, adding the right stuff, and it still didn't break down. She lived in a colder area, so this is also very affected by the temperature of where you live and how wet it is. In a lot of places, it's just gonna take forever to break down. Okay, so the last way I've composted is with the loamy. There are other brands that are making these though, and I'm not biased. I think that they're all great. I think they're all doing their job. Basically, this is a newer invention that is speeding up the compost time. I don't even know how it works. With heat, pressure, I don't know. It's kind of insane, and they're not too pricey, and they hardly use any electricity. That was my big argument at first, and then researching the Lomi website, they said it's like equivalent to having your lights on for a couple minutes to do a full round of compost. This is our little rush out the door, you know, check how you look, get the hand playing the fins, the skateboard, and of course, toss out that apple core when you head out the house. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys something kind of scary. There's definitely some mold in there right now. There's mold because I haven't started it in a few days, and it's not a big deal. You can totally start it with mold when there's little maybe bugs in there. It's fine. If bugs and mold freak you out, maybe you need to do the vermicomposting, but maybe you live in a urban area or you don't have land outside to have that system. I do love the Lomi. It breaks down paper I put in there and compostable like plastics, you know, and then food scraps, all that. I'm gonna start this right now. So the lid, if I have one complaint, is really tricky to put on. I actually bought this plant stand separate. It's not a Lomi stand. I had to close it with two hands. That's why I stopped the camera, and then I'm just gonna plug it in. There. And there's 3 settings. You can choose the quick compost breakdown if you're not needing a nutritious compost. You're just wanting to break down your compostables quickly. Then you have the Lomi approved, which is good for compostable plastics that Lomi say is good to put in here. And then the last option I always do, because we do have a garden and plants outside, we want nutritious compost for. So select that one, and this will be done in usually around 10 to 24 hours. Quick pro tip, every household is different. You could live in urban, suburban, farm life, and you have to compost differently accordingly. So you can do the little compost bucket I was showing you guys earlier on your counter and just put your compostables in there throughout the day and take it to your whatever compost system at the end of the day. If you don't make it through a whole bucket of compost in a few days, then another tip is to put compostables in the freezer so it's not getting stinky, it's not attracting flies. If you're keeping a compost bucket on your counter or putting compostables right in the Lomi, you really don't want it sitting for more than 2 days. Mine was moldy because it's been about 3 or 4 days or longer maybe. So if you don't want the stink, you don't want the flies, you gotta maybe put it in the freezer. And that also leads me to my last 4th bonus way of composting. If none of these work for your lifestyle, house situation, then you can keep your compost in the freezer or in a bucket outside and take it to a local farm. There's normally loads of places to take it in towns. Farmers want your food scraps and your yard waste. It's actually so nutritious for their farm. They don't get enough of it. Research online, find a place to take it to. Just don't put it in the trash because it won't break down naturally, and the earth has a way of replenishing itself. It wants those natural materials returned to the land, to the soil. So don't put it in the trash. Please ask questions in the comments below. I'm so down to read them. This is the very beginning of my YouTube channel, so please like, comment, and subscribe so I can start showing these videos to more people. I can't wait to give you guys more tips on sustainable living.